Salmon's Pizzeria and another episode in our Orders Up series where we sit down with esteemed figures of the Scottish game to talk to their careers. For this episode, we've put down the menus and headed straight for the specials. He's a multi-cap Scotland international, involved in that night in Serbia, a colossus of the game, turning it for no less than 8 clubs and is still going strong. He's been the face of his own Ballon d'Or campaign, headed by yours truly, and is the only man in history to be loved by both clubs, and this is in Dundee. I'm delighted to welcome to the show the one and only Declan Gallagher. How you doing, Dec?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure. So with a career like yourself, we might as well just get right into it. You started all the way back 1998 at Blantyre Boys Club. Given you are just 7 years old at that time, this might be quite a big question to ask yourself, but do you remember much of your time there working under Joe Maguire?
God, you could ask me if last week, I'd have to tell you no, but no, I did for a wee bit. I didn't. You always remember, obviously, your first boys club team, obviously Blantyre Boys Club, and as you say, Joe Maguire obviously still stays in Blantyre where my mum and dad and that. My mum actually sees him quite a lot down at the Blantyre Asda, so he's always asking for me. He's always been a big fan of mine as well, and as I said, I've always loved him because he was my first ever coach, and he was a guy that obviously seen a lot of potential in me right from the start. And no, Joe's a great guy, and obviously his son as well. I played in the same team as him, Sean Maguire. And no, it was great, and I remember my time at Boys Club so well, like as if it was yesterday, even though I can't actually remember quite a lot of things that happened over previous years. But yeah, just obviously like training at like St Joseph's Primary School and stuff like that, and just it was great.
Maguire has spoken previously about surprise that you did end up as a centre-back due to your impressive technical abilities. Did you always want to be a defender, or was it more just enjoying your football with mates and decision came further down the line for yourself, or did you decide that at youth level?
I don't know what it was, to be honest. I think it was just, obviously, I was probably taller than everybody back then, like I'm now. So it was an easy option just to kind of put me back there. But I think also, like, when you play 7-a-sides and then moving into 11s, it was just basically like taking the ball from your goalie and like try to beat the players as you could. You didn't think about passing back then. You just kind of try to do your own thing. And I think, as Joe's obviously said, like I was very good on the ball, and I used to just get it from my own goalie and just run the full length of the park and score. I used to get hat tricks and that for centre back. Don't do that much now, but no, I think that was kind of the main reason. I was a lot bigger than everybody, and it just made a lot of sense.
After you left Blantyre, you did a little bit of shopping around the Lanarkshire teams. You went from Albion Rovers, then over to Livingston, then eventually you ended up with Hamilton not long after you turned 14, representing them under 15s through all the way to reserves in under a year. You hear about the cutthroat nature of youth football. When we spoke to Derek Lyle previously, he did tell us that despite excelling in his age group, he owed his career to a chance to with his dad and Chick Charlie, who got him a trial at Partick Thistle. Is there someone that gave you that break you needed to showcase your abilities, or do you feel as though it was just a case of good luck?
I think Hamilton had a big step to play and me being able to showcase my abilities. As you said there, I played through 15s all the way up to reserves, so it kind of shows the belief that the Hamilton structure was back then, where they believed in youth talent. You've seen a lot of boys playing for the first team at a very, very young age at Hamilton, and I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go there, because at that time in pro youth, I think like it was like Lascelles, Hibs, Hearts, Rangers, and stuff. They basically had like the heart rate monitors, and this was all just kind of new to the game. And Hamilton at youth level had this, and it really intrigued me. And as I said before, like you look at the youth players that had come into the team, and then when I got there, I went to 15s to reserves in the space of 1 or 2 seasons. So it was incredible, and they gave me that chance to showcase what I could do against boys older than me and at my own age group.
Speaking of some of the young talent they did have at Hamilton at the time, Jason McCarthy was a player you did come across in your time there. Derek Lyle has came out and said he's one of the best youngsters he ever came across. How good was he back then, even at that age?
Oh, you could always see that it was top quality at the end of the day when you're 16-year-old and you're going in and playing in the first team at Hamilton. It doesn't matter what level you're playing at the end of the day, 16-year-old playing first team football, you can obviously see that you've got talent. And him on the ball, it was exceptional, to be fair. You could just see that his brain worked a lot faster than boys probably by his age. Obviously, I was lucky enough to play with him in the reserve games once, and they would take the ball in any situation and he would keep it for you. And yeah, it's no surprise to me that he had the career that he had. Obviously, it's a bit sad for him that injuries played its part in his career, but he's played at the top level. He's played in the Premier League and he's played for the likes of Everton and stuff like that. So he's been a top player, and obviously going up to Celtic's maybe not worked out the way he wanted it, but at the end of the day, it's still something that he's done.
Well, speaking of Celtic as well, you did end up having a stint there as well, and during that time, you did win the Scottish Youth Cup with the under-19s against a strong Rangers side that included players like Ness and Hutton. How was the experience of winning your first ever winners' medal? Did you feel nervous in the build-up, or did you relish in the big occasions like you do now?
I definitely felt nervous. I still feel nervous now. I think it's good to feel nervous before games like that, and obviously, regardless of it being youth level or whatever, you're still playing an old firm derby, basically. As you said, they had players like Jamie Ness, Kyle Hutton. Surprisingly enough, me and Kyle Hutton were really good friends at that time. We spent quite a lot of weekends together. So it was good. And but the fact that Hampden probably had about 10,000 fans for that game, showed you that even youth football, it meant something to win things at Celtic. And obviously, that was something that was amazing for me that I got to win. It was the actual double we done that year. So we won the league, we won the cup. So, no, it's absolutely brilliant. Obviously, winning at Hampden against, obviously, Rangers is even better.
No, definitely. Keeping with that final, James Forrest and Callum McGregor, two of your teammates, both went on to have stellar careers at Celtic. However, both are part of a small group to make that step up to the first team at either of the old firm sides. As someone who did struggle to break through a little, how difficult was the step up in demands and expectations from previous clubs? Knowing how it ended, would you have done things different, or was that opportunity too good to turn down?
Well, you've obviously got that kind of wee finding people who say would have been better staying at Hamilton and try to push into the first team younger. But at the same time, when Tommy Burns comes and meets your dad and says that the Celtic want to sign you, it's hard to turn down. No many people Tommy Burns when he turns up personally to meet you. And at the end of the day, as I've said to everybody, yes, it's obviously good if you stay at smaller clubs and maybe break into the first team. But at the same time, I wouldn't have learned half of what I learned at those clubs if I never went to Celtic and learned my trade there. And it helped me massively in my career. And it's obviously hard to make that kind of breakthrough. You have to have that something extra special, like say, as you can see with James Forrest, Callum McGregor, amazing football players and had amazing careers. So it was hard to obviously make that breakthrough. You do get a moment in your career where you think you might have the chance, and I think I maybe never took my chance when I actually got it. But those things happen. Obviously, it wasn't an easy task. Also, when the reserve league got cut the year that I made it to the reserves.
Something knew that you were coming. But with your first season in professional football, you did spend it on loan at Stranraer. How did you find that jump from the academy to senior football? Was it as big an adjustment as you expected to be? And how did you end up celebrating your first career goal against Queen's Park afterwards?
It's funny you actually say that, because I remember my first game. My first game was in the Scottish Cup, and obviously, like say, you're playing like junior teams and stuff like that at that early stage, because obviously I'm in the bottom league, and so I turned on. I think we were playing St Cuthberts, and we ended up beating them 7-1. I come off the park and I was like to my dad, "What have I signed for here? Like this is again." But then obviously the next week, I think it was either Annan or Brecon we played, and then against a proper striker, a man striker, and I realised, right, what I've turned up to. I'm now playing against a guy that's obviously fighting for his wages. It's fighting to pay his mortgages and stuff like that. We win bonuses, goal bonuses, whatever. So you could see the test had stepped up for youth team level, where it was more casual and relaxed, to now playing against men that are fighting for their livelihood. So no, you could see that big step up, and it was one that I really enjoyed. Obviously, as you said there, getting my first goal at Hampden was brilliant. I think it was my third or fourth game in with Stranraer, and I can just remember like the ball getting whipped in for Scott Agnew, and I tried to header it, and I think it hit my shoulder and then went in, and I was like, oh well, I'll take that. So I was delighted with it.
You did find yourself in quite a unique situation when playing with Stranraer, training with both them as well as the Celtic first team. How did testing yourself against the likes of Hooper and Stokes prepare you for the challenges of lower leagues of football? And was there any defenders at Celtic you tried to base your playing style off?
I don't think I really tried to base myself off any of the defenders at Celtic. It was good to obviously watch different styles and different ways that the defenders played. Obviously, I had the likes of Josh Heuveldt, Thomas Rogney, Daniel Mostorovic and stuff like that played. There was a Sweden internationalist who was coming to the end of his career. But it was good to just watch these guys day in, day out, be about them, see the way that they handled their business like, on and off the training park. And yeah, you take a lot of encouragement being able to train and watch these guys, and then obviously going and playing on a Saturday and the actual leagues and men's football, as you say, it's a lot better than just sitting probably doing nothing, playing the odd bounce game for the B team, and then you're not really developing as a player. So I think having the best of both worlds, where I was training with Celtic and I was obviously playing on a Saturday and men's football, was perfect.
Once you left Celtic, you did end up getting a trial at Partick Thistle. However, a contract never materialised. Is there a point after your release at that point where you had doubts that things wouldn't work out, or was it just a case of trying to trust the process and keeping the faith?
Well, the thing with Partick Thistle was, like, I went there on trial. I'd actually went down to Yeovil a few weeks before that when I got Celtic. I never got in at Yeovil, so I was travelling back up, and Danny McGrain said that Partick were interested, so I ended up going in there, and I was actually offered a contract at the time, but also had a trial at Doncaster lined up. So I had the option to either stay up here and take the contract for Partick, or take my luck down south. And I went and tried it down south. Went on trial with Doncaster, where they had the likes of Billy Sharp and George Friend, boys that have played at the highest level in England. And unfortunately, nothing materialised of that. So I came back up. I went back to Partick to see if there was anything there, but they'd signed Stephen O'Donnell. So the budget was gone, and which I had to accept, because I was told that obviously if I didn't accept the contract that it might not be there when I get back. And that's understandable. That's the risk of football. So I ended up signing for Clyde, but also I trained with Partick Thistle every day because I wanted to stay in a full-time environment and keep my best chance to try and push myself back into full-time football.
Mentioning Clyde there, when you did end up joining them, they were managed by Jim Duffy. How much was the chance to learn from him a factor in convincing you to sign? And did he give you any advice on anything that could impact your career that you still follow to this day even?
Well, when I spoke to Jim Duffy, it was me and my dad again. I had a chat with him, and Stranraer obviously wanted me to come back that season as well. And the funny thing is, for part-time football, Stranraer were actually pushing the boat out to sign me. They were offering me like money that obviously was a lot better than what Clyde could afford at that time. But my dad said to me, like, you have to go work under Jim Duffy. He said he was a centre, he played your position, he's well respected in Scottish football, and Duffy said himself that if I came and I done well and I listened to him, that he would try and push me back into the football that I want to be playing, higher up the leagues and stuff like that. And I did that. I went there, and I did reasonably well for them that season. I ended up getting a move to Dundee.
Quickly, just before we touch on your time at Dundee, during that season with Clyde, you did suffer quite a serious facial knock that kept you out for 2 months, and you have had some quite serious injuries following that as well, just throughout your career. Is there a difference in how you handle any injury setbacks now compared to when you were in your younger days? Does it feel more intense when you're younger, just because your future might feel more uncertain compared to when you're more established in your career?
I think, well, with the injury at Clyde, it was actually it was one that I knew was happening because I went through quite a lot. I had an overbite when I was younger, so I had to get that sorted. And when I stopped growing, which I obviously said was like 18, 19, it was an operation that I always had to get. So unfortunately, at that time, it had to be done. My job was moving quite quickly and stuff like that, and the overbite wasn't great. So it was something I had to get sorted personally. So that's what actually kept me out, was a jaw operation from the orthodontist and stuff like that. And it did keep me out for 2 months, but my time as a young boy was always quite quick. And even before I was cleared to come back, I was ready to come back and play, but Jim Duffy was refusing it until the doctors gave me the all clear. And after about 6 weeks, I think it was, I was back, and my first game back, I think, was against Peter's Hill Juniors. And the first tackle I ended up getting into, I smashed my face, and my mum was nearly greeting in the stand. But no, it's I think it's probably more serious when you get an injury in the elder stages of your career, because I think just like your body takes that a little bit longer to recover. And I think when you're younger, you're more carefree as well. You've got less responsibilities, so you're kind of like, oh, I'll heal and I'll just get back to it.
That's understandable. We kind of did touch on it there a little bit. You did end up getting your big move to Dundee, who at the time were in the Championship, and then a certain controversial incident involving Rangers happened, which meant a little swapping of the leagues. What was the dressing room like, especially at Dens Park at that time, that they were able to move up because of what happened with Rangers? Was the atmosphere electric? Was it exciting, or was it quite intense and intimidating making that jump up?
No, I think the atmosphere was really exciting. I think everybody wanted to play in the SPL at the end of the day. So it was definitely exciting about the place. I think the only thing for us is we had signed a team probably there to win the championship. We never signed a team going to go into the SPL and stay in the SPL. We signed a team to go and win the championship. And then we was getting put into the SPL early doors. It probably became a wee bit more of a panic for behind the scenes with the coach. But other transfers, I think there was a few kind of panic buys and stuff like that as well. So we were a wee bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Into the SPL, but I think we were fully prepared for the championship season.
The decision to bring Dundee up came just a couple of weeks before the season started. Given how things did end that year, how much do you think the lack of preparation time for the Premier League contributed to Dundee's struggles that season?
Yeah, well, I think I just said there with the signings, I think there was a lot of kind of panic signings who came in late, didn't really integrate with the boys early doors, and then it was just a simple case of then, like, you had a team that you had built, then you're signing players that just kind of get through in, but some boys they weren't playing. It was a wee bit of a lot of people didn't know where they stood. At the start, I was one of the boys. I never featured until I think it was about Halloween time. And when I signed there, obviously I done well in the pre-season games that I played in, and then wasn't seen until about October time. So it was obviously, it was great to get into the SPL, but at the same time it was kind of up in the air for the club as a whole, I'd probably say.
Things did tend to balance themselves out for Dundee. In the following season, they did win the league on the final day. What are your memories of that infamous helicopter Saturday? Do you remember how you felt watching Leathern make that save near the end?
My heart was in my mouth. I can actually remember that. It was Brian Prunty's header, and it was a great header, and I was actually right behind them when they won it. And I can just actually thought, oh no, it's in. And at the time, even a draw, we were thinking like, it's okay, because we had a goal difference. I think it was like +8 or something like that. So we're thinking like a draw, we're still going up. But it was a great hit, and the save was unbelievable. It was absolute top draw. I think Kyle Leathern that season him actually got called up for Wales and stuff. Is how good he was. It was a top draw save, and then thinking about after the game with the celebrations, the pitch invasion, it was absolutely crazy. And to find out that Hamilton had actually beat Morton 10-2 that game, and that a draw wouldn't have been enough, just made it even sweeter. It was absolutely crazy. Like, how a team can go out and get beat 10-2 is incredible, but it just shows you that save was so vital.
That season with Dundee is one of your most prolific of your career, arguably. Finishing 4 goals with all of them being headers. Was making the most of your presence at set piece something you and John Brown worked on in training, and has any other manager in your career paid that level of attention to utilising your height?
I just think it was more I don't even think it was utilising my height. I think it was just the way John Brown had playing that year. It was like, it got me a lot more aggressive as a centre back. Like, I was probably more of a, like as we touched on earlier, I was probably more of a ball playing centre back. I was more like chill, but he kind of brought out another side to my game, which I needed. And it was probably my aggression for being so tall and so physically good in the air that I should probably have been using it a lot better than I have. And then he came in and he obviously showed me a few things, and it really helped my game that way. And as you said there, it's probably been my best season of scoring, and getting 4 goals that season was decent.
You then moved on to Livingston after apparently turning down a contract with Dundee. How did this move come about? Was there interest from Livingston to yourself first, or did you try and approach the club to see if they would give you the chance? How did that come to fruition?
I think it just kind of came about. It was just basically the contract at Dundee that I was offered when John Brown was the manager was a 2-year contract, which I was happy to sign. But at the time, there was kind of disputes between the club agent, so it never got signed, and it was meant to be there at the end of the season. Obviously things happen in football, John Brown lost his job and obviously Paul Hartley came in. I still played every minute under Paul Hartley. I played every minute that season that we won the championship. And then Paul Hartley told me that I was only getting a 1-year extension with less money than I was on that season. I took away like privileges, like I had like housing arrangements with Dundee and stuff like that, which took away. So realistically, after the season that I had with Dundee, playing every minute, every game, and doing so well and getting them promoted, I then got offered a lesser contract, which is one of why I chose to leave Dundee at that time. Then obviously I spoke with John McGlynn and he was really keen to get me in, and I loved the way that Livingston played football. I loved the way that their youth boys got chances as well and stuff, so I thought that it would have been a really good fit for me, and obviously I know how good a manager John McGlynn is, so it was another choice of working with an extremely good manager and learning a different side of football from they were a really total football playing side, and it was something that I was really looking forward to.
You did become a bit of a fan favourite at Livingston, especially after helping the club avoid relegation and then achieving back-to-back promotions a few years later. How did that feel, knowing that the fans did just adore you so much? Does it help you when you're playing, knowing that you've got the fans behind you? Or is it something you try to push out just because fans can be a bit fickle at times?
I think during games you always kind of try to avoid like attaching yourself to the fans and listening to the fans too much, because like when it's going good they'll love you, when it's going bad they hate you, so it's something that you kind of need to block out quite a lot. But listen, it's always good to be loved in football. There's no footballer out there that will tell you that they don't love being loved by the fans and having their name sang and stuff like that. They love it, but at the end of the day it's like, it was amazing for me. I had a really good connection at Livingston. My family had a good connection at Livingston. We loved the club. I loved my time there. As you said there, back-to-back promotions. No one would have ever seen that, coming from League One up and then going up through the playoffs and the Championship the next season. It's probably one of the highlights of my career, to be honest, because it was amazing, and the changing room itself was absolutely brilliant too. So no, I loved every minute of Livingston.
With your first season at Livingston, where does the Great Escape rank amongst your favourite achievements in football? Does winning the Challenge Cup that season make it one of the most memorable seasons of your career, or do you think the Dundee promotion was up there first?
I'd probably say the Dundee promotion was definitely up there first, because at the end of the day there's nothing like winning the league, is there? Like winning the league and the celebrations after it, the parties after it, even the pitch invasion. I've never seen a pitch invasion like that in my life. When I'm all running out the stands, it was crazy. I didn't actually get into the changing room for like 45 minutes after the full time whistle, so that was amazing. But obviously, I've never done too well in like cup competition before. So winning the Challenge Cup with Livingston, obviously, and winning it how comfortable we did. I think it was 4-0 on the day at McDermott Park. It was great, and not at the same time like Rangers and that were in that cup at the time as well. So it was good to actually go on and win that. And it's probably one of the only cups that I've won in the sense that outside of league competition. So no, it was amazing. And then, as you say there, the Great Escape at the end, it was brilliant to keep us in the league too. So no, it was great. It was a good season that season.
So Livingston won the League One title before going up to the Championship playoffs the following season. Given the expectation of both seasons, I know this was probably harder to rank because it's the same club, but the Championship playoff win or the League One title win, what one do you think was the most energetic for yourself, just on a personal level?
The more energetic one has to be the Championship playoff game. I think every game was just amazing, because we finished second that year, so we didn't have to play the first one, and then we got Dundee United, funnily enough, next round, and we done so well. I think the game at Tannadice was crazy. We went 1-0 up, and then they went 2-1 up, and then the next thing you know, they looked so comfortable at Tannadice, if they'll go to cruise it, and then all of a sudden a few mistakes from them and the belief for us, and we ended up winning the game 3-2, and then they had to come to our pitch, Tony Mack, and we knew there wasn't many teams that came to our pitch and took it off us, so we knew we were in for a great chance, and we done it. And then obviously the last game against Partick Thistle, the 2 games, obviously we done so well, and the party after it was immense back at the stadium after the Partick game, and I could just remember all the boys. I think there was venoms flying about everywhere. that we actually had sports scene on the big screen in the middle of the stadium, and watching that and us getting promoted to obviously the top league, and it was a night never to forget.
It does sound a lot of teams haven't had a lot of luck at Spaghetti Hand over the years. It's definitely one of the proper, really tough games to play at. So congratulations again. I know it's been a while, but here you told me, you can tell how passionate you are still about Livingston. Keeping with the playoffs, one of the lads on the podcast, he is a die-hard Livingston man. He's been dying to ask you about the tape job that was done on your nose by the club physio for the game. Was it a case of you just getting back on how important the game was, or what was kind of the story with that one?
That was up there with the worst physio job I've ever seen in my life. Andy McKay is honestly, he's a top guy, top physio and stuff like that. But still to this day, I've got no idea what he was trying to do. He literally, I think it was just the magnitude of the game. They were trying to get me back on the pitch, but I had this cut. It was literally a cut side of my cheek that just wouldn't stop bleeding, and he didn't. And I was just like, I was like, chuck Vaseline on it. He could have done anything. Just starts wrapping my bandage around my head, and I was like, what is happening here? And they've lost it with the bandage. I don't even was holding it in place. It just kind of was fond in my face. I was like, what am I doing here? And then the next day, I think it was the next day at training, I've came in and all the boys have got bandages on their faces. Changing room with us, we all bandaged. I was just like, this is damage.
If anything else, it might have inspired a good couple of Halloween costumes for some young Livingston fans with that one. But back in the Premier League, ended up playing every league fixture as the club finished 9th. How different did you feel that season was to the one with Dundee in the Premier League, and how much of an impact did the experience have in helping you this time around?
I think it was good because we had a changing room that obviously knew our strengths, we knew our weaknesses. We knew the kind of team we were, and nobody kind of tried to come away from that. We knew we were like a big physical team. We knew we were going like long ball, long throw-ins, and we were going to be a team that probably hadn't been seen before in the top league for a wee while anyway. And I think that's what we brought to the top league. I think we brought that kind of physicality, and teams didn't like playing us. Teams didn't like coming to the Astro. Teams didn't like the fact that we threw the ball in for every position, and inside their half, the ball was always going in the other team's box. But it worked well for us. I think I had about 7 assists or something for long throw-ins, for Aaron Lithgow's long throw-ins. And I think between like say me, Craig Halke and Aaron Lithgow, I think the assists and the goals we scored amongst us for that back three was massive for the club.
Moving on to my personal favourite era of your career, your first season at Motherwell, you did play and work quite close with Peter Hartley. Did he pass any wisdom down when he moved on to pastures new when you took on the role of captain? Yeah,
Pete was honestly the best captain I've probably ever played under. Yeah, he's just a living legend, to be fair. And like, I still speak to Pete nowadays. He's just a great guy. Generally, a great guy all round. But at the same time, when he spoke, you listened. And that's what it is with Peter Hartley. Do you know what I mean? He was just a leader and a legend. And to be honest, I was gutted when he left the club, regardless of me getting and I was absolutely gutted because he was my partner. I played with him all that season. He was just a genuine good guy. But I think obviously we never really spoke too much after they left because no football player obviously likes leaving the club. But obviously. You got a great move over to India, and as I said, he done really well over there. And as I said, everybody always loves Pete. That's just the way Pete is. It's just his way about the place. But getting captaincy was massive for me. I was absolutely delighted about it. That Stephen Robinson obviously had the faith in me to do that because I had a great season the season before. We obviously finished third. Obviously, with COVID stopping the season, but we still probably deserved it because we went, and I think it was Aberdeen behind us at the time, and we went to Pittodrie a few times and beat them up there. So, no, it was great to get the armband for Motherwell. It was obviously one of the biggest things in my career because I'd never captained the club. I'd never been the club captain before, so it meant the world to me that.
With your time at Mull, you had your first experience being club captain as well as potentially your first trip in Europe. How was it like playing abroad? I know it was during the COVID season, so it wasn't probably the best of circumstances, but was it still something that you were looking forward to, even though there was a dampener that fans couldn't experience it alongside the boys?
Absolutely, because as you say, that was my first kind of venture into Europe. obviously it's devastating when the fans aren't there. And like the full thing is about the experience, about going to the airport. The fans are there to see you off, and then like you go over there and the fans will be singing and they'll be having the best of times. You know what I mean? Because it's a big thing for Scottish clubs.
Yeah.
Also, it was obviously devastating, and obviously the way it finished as well. Was personally, because obviously I ended up getting sent off against Beersheva, which was devastating for me. Obviously at that time I felt that I'd let everybody down, and it was a wee bit of a hard time. It was a bad flight home, we'll say, for me, but the experience itself was absolutely amazing because it was something that I'd never done before, and I loved every minute of it.
One highlight from a fan perspective of having it for Park was that goal in Dingwall. Can you talk us through the details? Was it just pure sheer luck that the goal got in, or was it something you were hoping to do that full game, was try and get that goal?
I just remember the game because Ross McIver scored that game as well, just coming off the bench. I think it was like a bigger thing for him because he'd obviously youth team boy, came off the bench, he'd been released from Ross County as a youth team boy and came on for Motherwell against them, and then scores that absolute wonder strike, which was amazing. And then I can just remember going up, imagine scoring a wee winner here, send everybody down the road. And to be fair, when I seen the ball in there, I just thought, that's mine all day. I just kind of moved. I was like, nah, this is mine. And then thankfully I got the head on it, and it was probably one of my cleanest headers that I've ever scored, to be fair. So no, I was delighted. And then I ran. I can just remember running towards the fans. Fans were going crazy. It was unbelievable. I ran towards the fans. I had the big arm swinging around the windmills. What I was doing, running at the fans, and then I just kind of remembered that I said, "Oh, I'm booked." I said, "I can't jump in with the fans. If I jump in with the fans, so I'm so close to them." And then I do a backpedal away, and I think it's like James Scott and stuff like, "Oh, jump into the fans," and I'm like, "Oh, I can't jump in here." Like, desperate for it, but no, it was amazing. And then obviously because the time of year it was as well, I think it was like Christmas time or something like that as well, or New Year time. So coming back down the road, I remember we stopped off at the wee place in Inverness, can't even remember the name of it now, do you know that, where the chip shops and that are. I can just remember stopping there at the garage to get some food with my mum, my dad and my partner. It was just like I got absolutely swarmed in the petrol station by all my fans, and it would literally jump about in a petrol station celebrating that victory and celebrating the goal, and it was a feeling like no other.
If you had jumped in the fans and got yourself sent off, I can guarantee you would have been forgiven for us for missing a game or two. Everything would have been more than fine. Speaking of the fans, look, there were unfortunately some sour grapes after you did announce you were departing, especially after rumours were made and circulated on social media about contract extensions, Celtic transfers, and then you did end up popping up in an Aberdeen jersey. There were some boos when you did make that return to Fir Park, but does that affect how you play, or do you relish in being the almost villain role when you do come to Fir Park?
I don't really like the villain role now, but I was actually a wee bit gutted because I really love my time at Motherwell. This is obviously, I know that it comes in with the contract disputes and then the thing Celtic, and then, but the thing was, like, a lot of people just read into so much stuff that they see. Like, at the time, I was in contract talks with Motherwell for a new contract. I tell them what I was looking for. They obviously couldn't match that. But at the time, I was obviously Scotland. I was doing really well in my selling. Any professional football player will tell you, like, you have to kind of, you've got things to look after, you've got things to do and stuff like that. And this is where people like don't understand it. So at the time of the January transfer window, when it was close to Celtic, I never once came out and said holding a gun and all this. That was never ever true. That never ever came out of my mouth. I never once said that. If that happened, that happened. That was up to the club at that point. That was for January. I couldn't have left in January in any form. So the club would have made money for me if that happened. And then I got injured, ended up pulling my hamstring. And then the next thing you know, people were saying, "Oh, he's doing this because he's not wanting to play certain games." And that again wasn't true. Pulled my hamstring. I was out. I then came back for one of the Scottish Cup games, and then from there I played the rest of the season. In the games that I played, we won. We got to safety. I done what I had to do, and then at the end up, I'd actually done something to my back, so I never played the last 3 or 4 games to protect myself because I knew I was going to the Euros. I also signed a 1-month contract extension with Motherwell because although I'd signed an agreement with Aberdeen, I said that I would sign a 1 month agreement with Motherwell so that they received my Scotland bonus for going to the Euro. So Motherwell actually made money from me, which a lot of the fans don't realise. They think because Donald Hingy, they got my money as well. So the money that Motherwell would have made would have probably covered my wages for the 2 years that I was there. And they would have made some. So they've actually made money off me, which nobody ever actually realises. And then obviously I went away, obviously got my money. So that's just kind of what happens in football, especially when I had 2 young kids and obviously a wife and a house and stuff like that. It's not nice in football, but in Scottish football, we've not got the luxury of being like down south where they're earning 50, 60, 70 grand a week and you're comfortable life and that you could stay for a team the next 6, 7 years because you're earning that sort of money. That's absolutely fine. But sometimes you have to try and look after your family as well. And it's got nothing to do with me not like Motherwell or things like that. It's just a financial point of view, moving close well, which Aberdeen was for me. I used to travel an hour and 45 to Motherwell every day from Dundee. If the traffic was good, I could maybe do it in an hour and 20. But then I ended up moving to Aberdeen, which was closer to me as well. So there's a lot of different circumstances. It's not that I didn't want to play for Motherwell and I hated Motherwell. I disrespected Motherwell. That is not the case. And it wasn't the case at a down tool either. I was there for the very end. I captained the club to the very end and I made sure that they were safe before I then looked after myself and getting into the Euro. And again, I gave Motherwell an extra month on my contract so they could receive payment for me going to the Euros with Scotland, which they did, and they benefited from that. And that's something that not a lot of Motherwell fans maybe even know, and they probably would think differently of me if they'd known that I'd actually done that to make sure that the club earned the money from me instead of leaving them in the lurch, is what a lot of fans seem to think.
No, it's really kind of yourself to do that, especially because there was no obligation to do that. Liam Kelly did the same thing this year, signed a temporary extension of his contract to get us a little bit of money, despite signing the contract with Rangers. So it is really appreciated by fans because, to be honest, I didn't even know that you did that. I don't remember the club coming out and confirming that either, whereas they did with Kelly. But it's good now that you have been able to come out and say that. Hopefully, with a bit of luck, that will be able to redeem yourself in the eyes of the fans come Friday.
I think I'm too far gone for that. I think
yeah, you never know. You've still got a maggot book set, don't worry.
Some fans still like me, so it's not too bad. Take that.
Another person did get brandished with Judas and villain role and all that type of patter was obviously your good friend Tony Watt. He has made the switch back to Fir Park. There was concerns over his reaction from the fans, but it seems to have gone down well so far. How did your friendship with Tony blossom? Was it just due to playing with him at Motherwell? Did you know him beforehand, or was that your first time meeting Tony?
No, I'd known Tony for a wee while. Obviously, when Celtic first signed Tony, he first came in. I was there. I didn't really have too much interaction with him, but obviously I knew of him. I'd seen it, and obviously he got his good move to Celtic, so I knew of him from there. And then I played against him a few times when he was at St Johnstone. And it wasn't really until he got his move to Motherwell where we really connected as friends. And I think it's just we're two very, very similar people. Like, we're very opinionated. We'll say what's on our. We don't care what anybody thinks of us. And we're just really here for a good time, to be honest. And that's how I think we connected so much. But nobody hammers each other as much as me and Tony hammer each other. It's unbelievable how much we just go at each other constantly. But we're really, really good friends off the park. I was obviously gutted to see him leave United because of how good a friendship we had. But at the end of the day, he felt it was best for his career to get a move and obviously get himself again closer to home in a club where he probably had one of his best spells at for scoring goals and stuff like that. So I can see why he was really happy to get back to Motherwell. And I'm sure a fully fit Tony Watt that's playing week in, week out. He's such a handful, and Motherwell fans have experienced that firsthand. Yeah, they might not have liked the way they left, but again, like
Dundee, it's football that happens.
Exactly, Dundee United signed him, Motherwell let him go. These things happen, and obviously you see stuff on social media. But Tony probably means absolutely none of what he says, but he just loves winding people up. It's just his character. He just loves it. But he's one of the greatest guys that I've ever actually met in football. He's just such a good guy. He would do anything for you. He would do anything for me anyway. And honestly, you could pick up the phone to him any day and he would answer, not a problem. And you would be on the phone to him for about an hour because he's that kind of guy. And you could speak to him about anything. It doesn't matter what, but normally football, because he honestly doesn't shut up about it.
You think then if Motherwell ends up getting a result against your team on Friday, I know, horrible to say, but if we do end up getting a result against you guys, we end up doing well in the cup, do you think we might see a signed on loan to Motherwell for nights like this type of tweet from Tony?
Absolutely. Obviously, for us, we know that he's obviously cup tied for the game. So for us, it's good because we all know that he's a top player. So it's good for us that he's cup tied and stuff like that. But at the same time, we're under no illusion. We know how hard this game's going to be.
Speaking of, well, you kind of touched on this previously there about your Scotland call-ups that you earned through playing with Motherwell. From the 9 caps that you did earn, what's your favourite experience of a Scotland camp outside obviously that one night against Serbia? Do you have any stories you can share at all?
Do you know what? There was just obviously the Serbia nights.
Yeah, that's iconic in itself.
That's everybody's best night. So, but I think just actually being away with the boys and that was just amazing. Obviously, like my first camp I was in, I was obviously sharing a room with Owen Shanklin. We were both called up for the first time, and then after that it was like kind of COVID, so it was kind of having rooms to yourself, and it was a bit more kind of separated, and then it got back to normal again. And I think one of the things obviously that I'll remember is I get done about for a few of the boys. Obviously you've got FIFA, so a lot of boys like to play that on their Call of Duty when they go away on international duty. They've got their PlayStations, their big pogas and stuff like that. So a lot of boys used to play FIFA at the time. There was a thing called Ultimate Team. It was like you would get your cards and all that kind of stuff. So one thing that EA used to do for obviously the top end players like your Andy Robertsons, John McInnes and your Celtic players and that, they used to always get like special cards kind of given to them. I was desperate to get this one, to get these cards and stuff like that. So I was saying to the boys, like, can any of you sort it out for me? Obviously, me being the Motherwell player, I'm trying to get them to sort me out. And I can surely somebody can sort me out here. So I will sort you. We'll get the boy. So next thing you know, I had a boy text me, and he's sitting there saying, "Oh, I heard you want the card out. What cards are you looking for?" And that. So I'm telling him what cards. I'm having a full blown conversation here. So I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, I'm away to get these cards and that." And then he says, "Oh, could you fill out this questionnaire for me?" So I'm sitting there filling it. It makes no sense. It's actually coming out with things like, "Oh, who's your favourite manager?" And I'm sitting there saying, "Oh, Stephen Robinson," and stuff like that, because I was a Motherwell player. But Stephen Robinson's my favourite manager. And I'm sending this through to this number, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, because he sent me an emoji, a PlayStation joystick, kind of at the end of the message, I was thinking it was legit. And then it wasn't until about 10 minutes into this, I've just kind of clicked. I said, this isn't real. I said, somebody's bamming me up here. And next thing you know, I went out my room and I had Greg Taylor, John McGinn, actually Don Thomas, Dunfermline had been texting me because I didn't have his number. He took his WhatsApp picture, and I was like, no way, it's impossible. And I'd absolutely been hammered with all the boys. I'm sitting there filling out questionnaires and that. I said, I couldn't believe it. I'd been absolutely done.
Something that you did do for quite a while during COVID, especially with your good friend Tony Watt as well, was streaming the likes of FIFA, Call of Duty. Can we see a return of the decks all over your Twitch channel, or is that dead and buried now?
The Twitch channel is still there, and I'm actually desperate to get back on it. But it's I've just moved house up into kind of like the farmlands of Dundee up in Liff, and my internet is terrible. So it's literally the worst internet you can get because you don't actually get fibre up in this area. So it's basic internet, and anytime I try to stream, it's like it starts lagging my game. I can't play it, so it's like I can't do it just now. But I'm actually desperate for like BT or somebody to get a bit of fibre up here so I can get back on the old streaming.
Never know, you might talk nice to the social media guys at Dundee United, see if you can use the media room and
that'll be my next step, but then I would never come home to see the wife and kids because I would just sit there all day streaming and play.
Amazing. When you did leave Motherwell and after the events of the Euros, you did end up obviously with Aberdeen. How did the move come about? You did kind of touch on it previously, but did you go to Goodwin or did he go to you? How did that kind of go down?
Was that after Aberdeen or before Aberdeen? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, when you were signing for Aberdeen, I can't remember if it was him or I
Oh,
thought it was that's bad. The American fella, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, the thing was, when I first spoke to Aberdeen, it was actually with Derek McInnes was the manager, and spoke to McInnes, and like obviously, I think I suited the kind of player. He'd obviously had defenders like Vash Taylors and Andy Considine and stuff like that, so I kind of fitted the profile that he liked. And when I spoke to him, I was delighted to obviously work on Aberdeen. Had obviously done well for so many years, apart from the year that we beat them to third. I think they finished third most years and stuff like that, and they always thought of themselves as a team that could challenge with Celtic and Rangers. So I was really excited for that step. But he obviously ended up leaving the club, which kind of put my contracts discussions up in the air, might we say. But then I ended up speaking with Scott Brown at the time, who was linked to going there as a coach, but nobody knew. So I spoke to him. And then I spoke to Stephen Glass, and both of them assured me that they still wanted to sign me and that the contract offer was still there, same deal, same everything. So, no, I was delighted to get that deal done and then obviously get my move up there.
You did move on earlier than probably expected from Aberdeen. Was that something that you wanted? I know you did deal with some criticism there. Willie Miller in particular was quite vocal. Did you find that unfair considering the club in general did struggle that season? It wasn't as if it was just yourself that didn't have a good season.
To be fair, like it was a mixture of everything. When I first got there, it wasn't a great start for me, and it wasn't a great finish for me. At the end of the day, when I first got there, I got COVID, so I missed the first week or two of pre-season. And then when I came in, I started getting myself going. I was suspended for the first European game. Then I started making a couple of appearances off the bench, and then my wife ended up getting COVID, so then I was staying in a hotel for 10 days. And then I ended up staying with Scott Brown for about so I was kind of here, there and everywhere. And then I eventually got myself into the team, started doing okay. We didn't really have a great team at the time, but it was obviously COVID and this and next thing. So things were chopping and changing. Then I was playing well, and then games that I was playing well, I was getting subbed off at half time and stuff like that to change formations. Like I just couldn't really get into a rhythm when I was at Aberdeen. And then eventually we went to a back three, and I was playing the middle of the back three, and I probably had my best game for the club against Hibs, and we beat them 1-0. And then I pulled my hamstring that game. So then I was out for another 6 weeks, and then it was a case of trying to get fit again. And then I got COVID again. So I got COVID twice in the one season, missed a lot of pre-season. I think I only played something like 22 games, and a few off the bench as well. So I think, it must have been about 17, 18 games at Aberdeen, and obviously, I've been criticised for that. To be fair, towards the end of the season, I was very, very poor. I was poor for the club. I was absolutely horrendous. I wasn't fit enough. I wasn't myself at all when I was there, just because when you miss pre-season and you're not playing regularly, my body just can't handle that. I need to be playing week in, week out. I need to be fully fit. And if I'm not that, then you kind of get the season that I had. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And then obviously when I spoke to Goodwin the next season, he was wanting to bring in his own players and wanted to bring in the likes of Liam Scales. He had a few centre backs that he'd lined up already. David Bates was on a 2-year contract, so it would have been harder to ask him to leave the club because he was on a 2-year contract. I only had a year left on my contract, and obviously he told me that I wasn't going to feature much, but he also told me that he would treat me with utmost respect, and that he would always have me training with the first team. I wouldn't be getting sent away with the youth team if I decided to go. But I think it was best for everybody that I left the club. Obviously, the fans didn't really take to me. They still haven't taken to me. I still think that probably one of the worst signings that they've ever had. But the only thing I can say that is just that it just wasn't my season. It just, with COVID twice and pulling thing, I was never fully fit at Aberdeen. It's no excuses. Obviously, it's up to me to get myself there, but it wasn't ideal for me, and I understand why the club made the decision to try and get me away, which is fine. At the end of the day, I went and I was fully fit at St Mirren, and it just showed when I got St Mirren. Well, not just me, obviously. We got the club into the top 6 for the first time in about the club's 40-year history or something like that. It was so. No, it was obviously disappointing for me because I wanted to show Aberdeen fans that I had more to give, and I think if I stayed that season, I would have probably worked my way back into the team and shown them, because they went to a back three. and I'm pretty decent in the back three, some might say. So I think I would have probably been an asset to them that season, but unfortunately it wasn't to be, and I wasn't there to sit on a bench. I was there to play games, and I was told by the manager that wasn't going to happen this year. So we take the choice to move on.
Yeah, you did end up signing with St Man, which meant you did return to Stephen Robinson. Did the chance to work with him again really influence your decision to move to St Man, or was it the belief that he could maybe help you get back to the form which saw you called up to the national squad?
Well, it's actually quite funny because he wanted me to sign, but I also had an option to go down south to Tranmere. Tranmere wanted to sign me. I'd actually lined the Tranmere deal up, so I'd actually said to Stephen Robinson I was going to try myself down south and get a wee kind of change of scenery and that. So I'd left Aberdeen. I went and picked my wife and kids up in the car in Dundee, and I was driving down to Tranmere to go sign there. And then my wife actually started crying in the car. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave Scotland. She didn't want to leave to go down to stay down south. She's obviously got a good job herself. So that made it hard for me. So then I was actually driving down. We got to Strathclyde roundabout. My mum and dad are obviously for Hamilton, so I went right to my mum and dad's. And I tried to phone Stephen Robinson after telling him that I didn't want to do, and I said to him, like, I couldn't actually get a hold of him. He was away up the mountains with his partner. Walking or something. So I actually couldn't get a hold of the assistant manager, Dermot Carroll. And I said to him, if the deal's still there, like, I want to sign it. And then he was like, oh, I need to get in touch with the gaffer, the chairman, whatever. So it was a Saturday night, and literally I had Stephen Robinson on the phone to me. He said, what is happening here, Dick? He said, look, what are you doing? And I was like, listen, the wife doesn't want to leave. I said, I'd be no use to anybody if I'm doing there by myself. So if the deal's still there, like, I'd love to sign it and stuff like that. And he said, right. He said, but you have to sign it tonight. He said, no, Paul, it's not that. You're signing this deal tonight. And I was like, right, okay. So he actually got the secretary of St Mirren to drive into the stadium, send over the contract. So I'd signed the contract, and then on the Sunday, I was going on a boat to Belfast for the pre-season tour with him. So it was a whirlwind, to be fair. But obviously, I wasn't going to go anywhere. If it wasn't Tranmere, it was definitely going to be St Mirren, because working under Stephen Robinson again, obviously, I knew that he would get the best out of me.
The night before your first return to Pittodrie, Willie Miller made a certain comment or two about you and Curtis Main, calling the both of you Aberdeen rejects. Next day, you both scored a 3-1 win. How did it feel for the both of yourselves to try and silence those critics, especially since Willie Miller had been so critical for you for quite a long time?
Yeah, do you know what? I didn't really care. I didn't actually see it until after the game that Willie Miller had actually come out and said rejects. I just don't feel there was any need for them to say it. At the end of the day, I'd left the club. There was no hard feelings. Like, we shook hands and stuff like that. We're on our way. They were the ones that wanted rid of me. I didn't want to leave the club, and I left, no problem and stuff like that, when they said they didn't want me anymore. So for him to come out calling us rejects, calling us this and that, there's no need. The guy's got a legendary status at Aberdeen. So for to come out and just criticise players, I just don't get it. Like, he's a pundit. It's okay, you can have a go saying that people aren't playing well or this, that, and next thing, but it's just, there's no need to come out and say things like that. And that's where the wee coffee cup kind of banter came out, when it was like, Aberdeen reject, sorry. Just a wee bit of light-hearted banter and that, and then obviously, you know what fans are like, they hate it, don't they? They hate it when you get kind of one up on them. But at the same time, if I had scored against Aberdeen without that comment, I didn't really want to celebrate in their faces, and I ended up celebrating with Stephen Robinson and like the bench and stuff like that. I actually get fined for that because the boys said it's embarrassing that you've celebrated with the manager of the club, and I thought, okay, I'll accept that, no bother, because I really wanted to rub it into Aberdeen, because as I've said before, there was no feelings between me and Aberdeen. And I loved my time there. I wasn't great for them, but they weren't a great fit for me either. And these things happen in football, do you know what I mean? But listen, the comment alone is, it's water off a duck's back now. It's like, I'm not really interested in what Willie Miller's got to see. He's, as I said, he's a legendary status at Aberdeen. I don't think he needs to make comments like that. But he did. I had my banter back, and that's it for me. If anybody's still got a problem with that, then that's their issue, because it's it's dead in the water for me anyway.
Was the coffee cup tweet your idea, or was that from the media team? Because you do have quite a fun, cheeky personality. I can definitely see you suggesting that to them. But was that all you, or was that them?
Oh, it was definitely me. It was definitely. I think it was I put it up on or it was my wife who put it up on her social media, and then the media team came to me and said, "We want to stick that up," and I said, "Absolutely, go for it." And then I stick. I said, "That's brilliant, but it's a bit of banter." I said, "If everybody's talking about you, then at least you're still in the limelight. All press is good."
Exactly.
I was happy with it. Listen, it's banter football. See, I thought that football wouldn't be football, would it? I thought that kind of football would be football, and it's light-hearted banter. It's not as if I come out and say anything bad about Wally Miller. I just put a project in a coffee cup, and the amount of people that were biting at it, man, it was unbelievable.
That's definitely something Scottish football's famous for, is the banter. The only good press you get is coming on the Salmon Speaks Area podcast. That's just a universal fact. But all jokes aside, though, it was a brilliant piece of part from yourselves and the media team. Hats off to you for that one, because even I did chuckle at that. So
Motherwell's media team was always good for that anyway. They got my best sides. I think I had many videos out of me either singing, dancing, or doing something anyway. So the media team really pictured me very, very good at Motherwell.
You did end up leaving St Mirren, and then you're now with Dundee United. Being from Dundee yourself, you did kind of touch on this with your move to Aberdeen, but was that more so because it was closer to home, or was it solely for footballing reasons?
I think it was probably more footballing reasons. Obviously, I wanted to get back up the road, but I think at the time at St Mirren, me and the manager probably weren't kind of seeing eye to eye. He had kind of a different way that he wanted to play. Probably didn't suit the way that I was and stuff like that. So he was basically saying, like, there'll be games you'll play and there'll be games that you won't play, that, like, obviously Goga and that would play, like, again. And I just thought that I'm not a bit part player. I'm a player that needs to play every week. And as I said about my fitness and that, if I don't play every week, obviously if I'm not playing well, then fair enough. But I need to be a player that's playing week in, week out, and obviously he couldn't guarantee that. So I knew that Dundee United obviously were needing a centre back. Obviously my wife's dad, who's actually a Dundee fan, but was a director there at Dundee, knew the directors at United, and basically made them aware that I was looking for a move, and I was obviously wanting to get closer to home if possible. And obviously I knew it was a drop down in leagues, but I never ever thought it was a drop down in club size, because at the end of the day, it's a massive club, and when they're in the top flight league, that you just know that it's a massive club to play for, and I think you see that this season.
We were going to ask yourself that then, especially since it was your wife's dad that did help with the move. How did your wife say the family take you moving to Dundee United, since quite a lot of them are huge Dundee fans? Was there any sour grapes on the dinner table, or did they take it in good faith that it was just footballing reasons?
No, everyone in them have always been happy for me, because they're now happy that I'm back home and I'm staying in the house and that I'm with my kids every day and stuff like that. It's amazing. Obviously, as I said before, it was her dad that actually made Dundee United aware that I was free. So there was obviously no sour grapes for them. Her mum and dad have always been like massive supporters of me. Obviously, they'll never come to a game they know, because it's against these morals, which I understand completely. But listen, we have friendly banter about the table and stuff like that. One of our brothers is actually a United fan, which is good. Our other two, our brother and my sister and our brother-in-law, are Dundee fans. So it's good, and it obviously made for good entertainment for the derby. I wish we could have held on for the victory, but unfortunately we didn't. So but it's all been good. It's all been light-hearted fun. So it's something that I've really enjoyed with the family as well.
You think if you do get a goal against Dundee, that's you off the Christmas card list then?
Well, saying that, I actually scored against Dundee when I played for Livingston, and he still speaks to me in the new, so that's decent. So that's not too bad.
It's a sign for good things to come in, just in case. But you were really successful with your first year at Dundee United. You picked up the title, and now you're back in the Premiership. You were fancy for the immediate return, but Rafe did push you till the very end. What was the dressing room like through that season? Was it similar to when you came up with the likes of Livingston and then Dundee, or do you feel as though it was a completely different ball game altogether?
I think it was probably a different ball game in the sense of like people expected Dundee United to just absolutely romp the league, and I'm not going to lie, we did. A lot of people say, no, it wasn't easy. Our points tally was the second highest since Rangers winning the championship. So outside of Rangers, we've had the second highest points tally. Like Dundee won that league with like 64 points or something like that. Kilmarnock was like 63 points. We won it with 74. So Raith Rovers, on the points that they finished with, would have beat Dundee and Kilmarnock the season before. So it just shows you how competitive that league was. And for people saying that it was an easy league in that, people kind of forget that the season that Kilmarnock come up, Arbroath were the team that was second in the league, a part-time team. You know what I mean? And that's no disrespect to Arbroath. They were absolutely amazing that season, but they were a part-time team. And then the same with Dundee. Dundee had the likes of Cove Rangers and stuff like that in their league, Arbroath and stuff like that. So it's like you can't come out and say that we had an easier league when we didn't. We actually had a very, very tough league. We just obviously got pushed the full way with Raith Rovers, and that was credit. It made for a good championship. But at the end of the day, there was in the changing room. We were always confident that we were going to see it out. We were going to win the league. As I said, like the points tally speaks for itself. The defensive record speaks for itself as well. So no, we were delighted.
During your time at Dundee United, as well as St Mirren as well, there has been a couple of jokes made that both teams did feature quite a lot of former Motherwell players, especially when you were there. Did you feel as though that made it easier since you had played with some of these players before, like Liam Grimshaw at Dundee United, Charles Dunn at St Mirren when you were there as well? Obviously, Tony Watt featured for both sides when you were there as well. Do you feel as though it's easier to kind of form that bond with your teammates when there's that pre-established relationship in terms of your playing bond rather than the team bond, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, I think obviously St Mirren with like myself, Charles Dunn, Mark O'Hara and stuff like that. Obviously, it's good banter when you see, it's like Motherwell team and this, that, and next thing, and that you get a good laugh out it and stuff. But I think that's just kind of sometimes the case in Scottish football, see, because the teams are so close. Like, if you can get a player the quality, the likes of like Charles Dunn and Mark O'Hara and like Liam Grimshaw and stuff like that, it's a no-brainer that you're going to take them to the club regardless of who they've played for before. So, but no, it is good banter, and it does make it easier when you've got boys that you know you can trust, like having Grimmy playing right back beside me and stuff like that. Like, I know I could trust Grimmy with my life, and he would give you everything every day of the week. I was obviously gutted to see him leave Dundee United as well, but listen, he was excellent for us in the championship season, and obviously, as you said there, with Charles Dunn and stuff like that, Big Dunny's the best guy in the world. Every fan loves Dunny, and just every boy loves Dunny. He's honestly Big Chilly D, as they say. Just a boy, and having guys like that in your changing room is always brilliant because they put a smile on your face every day, especially when you work. All you want to do is be happy, and they're the kind of guys that make that happy place for you.
The season has started off better than some people would have expected or predicted for Dundee United just because of their history of going up and down the past couple of years. Are you surprised by how well this team have adapted back to the Premier League, or what's the goals for the rest of the season? And if you say it's to beat Motherwell on Friday, we will be having some crosswords.
Oh, the goal is definitely beat Motherwell on Friday. So, but no, am I surprised? Not really, because I've seen the qualities, and I said it last year. Even when we were in the championship, I say it's like we wouldn't be far away because there was a few teams in the championship like Airdries and Raith Rovers who actually like St Johnstone's and things like that in the SPFL. So it was like the gap isn't as big as what everybody was thinking. I mean, you even looked at that cup game last year with Hull when they scored the kind of last minute goal and stuff, and it's 1-0. It's not an easy place. The championship. It's actually probably one of the hardest leagues in Scotland. So. Did I think we were going to be far away when we came up? No, and then we obviously the manager's new signings and international players coming in as well. And I think that the kind of gelling that we've took and the squad that we've built, I wasn't surprised with the start that we've had to the campaign, no.
Now, this is hopefully some more fun and light-hearted stuff for yourself. We like to do a little quick fire round at the end of the podcast. Gut reaction, you're not allowed to think about the answers. Are you ready for the challenge for this one?
No, but let's do it.
Your favourite club initiation, go.
Favourite club initiation would be Aberdeen one, away in Sweden. Sang my usual song.
speaking of songs, you have mentioned previously that you are a big fan of the Disney music. Top 3 favourite Disney songs, go.
High School Musical, Breaking Free, Frozen, Let It Go, and The Greatest Showman.
Excellent choices. And lastly, you can't come on the pizza pod and not get asked this. Favourite topping on a pizza? What's your go-to?
Oh no, too firmly on it. Chicken tikka.
I respect it.
I know, I'm say best yesterday, I'm not even a big pizza eater, man. That's the worst of it.
I respect it. Listen, Dick, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much. Thanks again for everyone watching as well. And thank you for appearing on The Pizzeria. We should be back out with some more shows soon and more interviews. So remember to always watch us on YouTube, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and subscribe for more stuff. Thank you. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, guys.